Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a member of the community, Sceptile Ice, who just hit rank 1 in the world on the Pokemon Go Battle League leaderboards. Now he accomplished this feat battling in the Open Great League, and today for the very first time he's going to be revealing the team and strategy that allowed him to reach this rank. Now the team he's using is built around Talonflame as a sweeper. It's Cladyol lead, Golisopod, and Talonflame, with the goal being to try and set up Talonflame up a shield or up energy to sweep endgames. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Moving into game number 1, leading Cladyol into Pangoro. This is a pretty solid matchup for Cladyol. Pangoro is able to spam out Night Slashes with lightning fast speed, but Cladyol is bulky enough that it is actually able to survive too. The typical strategy for this team involves Sceptile not actually shielding up the Cladyol, but rather using Cladyol as a means to an end to try and generate a shield advantage for his backline. And now that he has shield advantage, in comes Talonflame, and Talonflame now is met with an opposing Talonflame. He is so far ahead on energy, so there's no baits here, going straight for the Brave Bird. It connects, and down goes Talonflame. Out comes Swalot. But unfortunately, it's just immediately game over. The moment he got the shield advantage, Talonflame just in a prime position to sweep. Talonflame still has 2 shields to hide behind as well. Swalot going for the sludge. Talonflame just going to undertap the fly, looking to apply as much pressure as possible to the opponent. And now Golisopod hits the field. Pangoro re-enters the field of play with a ton of energy that it saved from earlier. It's going to be spamming out Night Slashes, but for Golisopod, that's very okay. Golisopod going to be hit with the close combat. That does not KO either. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. One thing that I do want to note is these sets are not in order. He basically sent some of his favorite battles. Picking up a great lead, but a very scary safe swap here, leading Cladyol into Drapion. Opponent safe switches into a Shadow Sableye. Now you may notice he's not switching out here. Instead, what he's doing is he's staying in to get that shield advantage, and now he's bringing in Golisopod to absorb energy. His goal in basically every game is just to try and set up Talonflame as a sweeper. He does not care about switch advantage. Instead, he's almost always trying to play for that shield advantage or energy lead Talon. Down goes the Sableye. Golisopod playing to the CMP tie there, which is quite nice. Opponent now has a choice to make. They're going to send in the Drapion. Oh, they're actually going to switch out. They're now going to send out Jellicent, and Jellicent will immediately be met with Aqua Jet after Aqua Jet after Aqua Jet. These Shadow Claws adding up as well. Hex does generate a lot of energy, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. The opponent paying a very steep price as they lose almost their entire Jellicent. In comes the Talonflame, going to try and snipe with the Claydol, gets the Mud Slap through, and that means the opponent is only getting one move here. We will see the shield on the Surf. Opponent sends back in the Drapion, but since the Talonflame is still at full HP, one Aqua Tail will not knock out, so this is a very comfortable no shield for Sceptile Ice. Sceptile Ice now at 80 energy, 1 away from the back-to-back flies. That will mean game over for the opponent. 2 Poison Stings and Aqua Tail from the Drapion, but Talonflame still with a shield to hide behind, not worried whatsoever, gets to click the Fly. Fly will easily knock out the opponent, and that's going to be game over. We move to the next match. Oh, going up against Chillis FM. Claydol into a non-Shadow Jumpluff. I do think that the Shadow Jumpluff is just strictly better than the regular, but of course not everyone is going to have access to the Shadow. Now for Claydol, you are typically with this team never going to be shielding the lead. You just want to try and generate some kind of advantage. Opponent's going to save switch into Blastoise and make a catch of a Rock Tomb. Blastoise is an uncomfortable Pokemon for this team to deal with. Blastoise gonna fire off a Hydro Cannon. Claydol forced to commit a shield. Claydol trying to predict when the Blastoise would throw the move, and unfortunately did not get it right. Blastoise going to be hit with the Rock Tomb now. They are double debuffed. Now we're going to see the switch into Golisopod as Blastoise fires off its energy. It is going to be the Hydro Cannon catch, so that catch works out nicely. Opponent's going to send back in the Jumpluff, but baiting back out the Jumpluff is nice because this should set up the Talonflame quite nicely, as Talonflame will get a hefty energy head start. But part of what makes Jumpluff scary is a Switch Lock Jumpluff last season wasn't threatening the Talonflame, but Acrobatics adds up. Acrobatics does quite a lot of damage. Talonflame now with a decision to make, deciding to shield up the Acrobatics and gonna look for a massive farm down. Talonflame exiting with a ton of energy. In comes a Shadow Quagsire, and this is gonna be a tough game. Gonna be firing off the Fly. Fly is gonna connect. Opponent sends in the Blastoise. There's the combo play. Blastoise, Hydro Cannon, Talonflame hangs on 1 HP. In comes Claydol. Claydol gets the farm down. Claydol leaves with the Ice Beam. The opponent has to no shield. There's a move loaded on the Talonflame. They do. They survive on 1 HP, and now it's gonna come down to a race. Can Quagsire mud shot down a Talonflame? Yes, it can. What a roller coaster of a game. Dream lead in the next match, Claydol into Bastiodon. Opponent safe switches into their own Claydol, and it looks like this is probably going to be some kind of extreme fast move pressure team. Opponent is going to go for the Rock Tomb. Golisopod farming up a ton of energy and now firing off the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet, of course, is 1 stage debuffed. Claydol's able to hang on. Claydol survives on 1 HP, so unfortunately Golisopod forced to fire off another move. Aqua Jet is going to be no shielded. Back in comes the Bastiodon. Normally, he doesn't play for switch advantage with this team, but if the opponent is using something as alignment dependent as Bastiodon, then you kind of have to play for switch. Golisopod firing off Aqua Jet after Aqua Jet in this matchup, looking to apply a ton of pressure to the opponent, and this Bastiodon is deep into the yellow health. Bastiodon actually throws energy here, which is kind of strange. They go for the Flamethrower. That does nothing. It's going to be a Golurk in the back, and that is not the Mud Slapper I was expecting to see. My goodness, Golurk getting a debuff with the Rock Tomb, and now in comes Talonflame, and oh no, this Golurk is getting deleted by Incinerates. I've run Golurk before in the Ultra League, but in the Great League, my goodness, the lack of bulk is even more apparent. Can Talonflame hang on here? Sceptile does not think so. Sceptile going to be committing the shield and just looking for the farm down. Switch clocks up, and Bastiodon re-hits the field. Bastiodon going to be hit with a Fly. Fly not going to do a ton of damage. Talonflame gets farmed down, but Claydol is going to be able to take this win as Golurk is not getting to the move, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, Claydol against Dugong. This is an uncomfortable Pokemon for this team. We see the safe switch into Golisopod, a rare moment where he's pivoting out of a lead. And Golisopod is going to be answered with Drapion. Drapion taking massive damage from that Aqua Jet. Crunch will inflict a ton of damage. In return, Golisopod decides to commit a shield. Golisopod, unfortunately, does get debuffed here, but realistically is not going to be able to flip this regardless. But the goal is you want to try and soft lose it and set up farm for either Talonflame or the Claydol. My guess is, yeah, we are going to see a no shield as Golisopod is going to get KO'd. And now, in comes Claydol. Claydol looking for a farm down, but the Drapion holds on. One final charge attack. It's the Crunch, and that's some pretty significant damage. In comes the Dugong, but now a Rock Tomb debuff gets to be applied, and this is super effective damage. Rock Tomb into the Dugong does get no shielded. Talonflame hits the field, and now the opponent, they're staying into debuff, but they themselves have had their attack lowered. So they will fire off the Icy Wind, Talonflame taking that very comfortably. Talonflame deciding to commit the shield. If the opponent's staying in, the hope is that they're quite weak in the back. Talonflame at the back-to-back flies, farming up to 100 energy. Fly into the Dugong is going to be shielded. Talonflame just going for the KO. Talonflame still double debuffed. What do they have in the back? In the back, it's Superior. Talonflame going to bank the Fly and switch into Claydol to reset the debuff. Now Talonflame's going to be at full power here. Opponent fires off energy. They need to hope that an Aerial Ace will knock out, but it does not. Talonflame making it to the Brave Bird. Brave Bird easily KOing Superior, and out of a very tough lead, able to clutch a win. We move to the next match, leading Claydol into Credilli. Sceptile did mention in the notes there were a few games where he felt like he misplayed, and this was one of them. I do still think it's worth showing the games with the misplays, and the misplay that he views that he made here is shielding Claydol. Claydol does not get knocked out there even if it's a Grass Knot. If a Grass Knot lands, Claydol can still survive it, land the Ice Beam, and still be unable to be farmed down before it makes another move. So, realistically, shielding Claydol in this lead matchup honestly just kind of puts him in not a great position. And now, unfortunately, the Credilli has another move loaded and ready to go. He sends in the Talonflame, but it's met with a Rock Tomb, and unfortunately, things are going wrong in this matchup. Talonflame is now debuffed. In comes Gastrodon, so the opponent is extremely weak to Talonflame. Gastrodon missing a golden opportunity to fire off some energy. Instead, they're actually going to let Talonflame get to 100. And that means Talonflame gets to fire off a Fly followed by a Brave Bird. The Brave Bird is going to be shielded. Gastrodon not going to be able to farm down. It's still a flying type, so they're forced to fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam will not KO, but it will set up a farm down for this Gastrodon. Gastrodon now going to be answered with Golisopod. There's a cool catch onto the Claydol right there. Claydol absorbing that Body Slam. Back in comes Golisopod, but unfortunately it's Jump Pluff in the back, and Golisopod cannot win that matchup. We move to the next game, Claydol against Azumarill. Now, technically, this team has 3 Pokemon that are weak to Azumarill. But, as Sceptile mentioned in the notes, he beats almost every Azumarill that he faces, because Claydol into Azumarill is genuinely not even a bad matchup, because Claydol is an extremely ridiculous Pokemon. Here, he does try and go for a potential Ice Beam catch onto the Golisopod, doesn't quite get it, and Golisopod is answered with Drapion. Drapion going to be firing off Crunch. That is going to do some pretty substantial damage. It does actually get the debuff as well. And now with that debuff, it is going to set up a farm down for the opponent if they shield, but they don't. Instead, they're going to bring back in Azumarill. Azumarill so far over 100 energy as they try and farm down. He can just bring back in the Claydol, and Claydol is going to be more than happy to absorb this energy. The opponent finally gets to throw a charge attack for the first time this game on this Azumarill. It's going to be the Ice Beam, and they're going to fire off Ice Beam number 2. A turn wait there to make sure there's no catch from Sceptile, but Sceptile's just saving shields for the Talonflame in the back. It's going to be a Shadow Marowak, and because the Shadow Marowak is down a turn, this is going to be very uncomfortable for the opponent. They are going to go for a Bone Club bait, but even with baits, you cannot escape the pacing of Talonflame in the 2s. Talonflame firing off the Fly. Opponent will commit the shield. They can go for another bait, but genuinely, it will not win them this game. We are going to see a shield here. It is going to be another Bone Club bait. The opponent, oh my goodness, they're so low, but they are close to a move. Talonflame, Fly is going to be shielded. Going for another Fly. That's going to pick up the KO. And the opponent's Azumarill, if we remember correctly, is Energy Dry, which means Talonflame gets the full sweep. A team triple weak to Azumarill against Azumarill. It's no contest. Sceptile Ice is able to get that win. We move to the next match, Claydol finding its target as it stares down a Dunsparce. Opponent gonna save switch into Talonflame, and my guess is this is probably gonna be the Dunsparce Azumarill Talonflame team from last season. Dunsparce, I really don't see a purpose in running it currently, as my goodness, the rollout nerf is unfortunately very much felt by Dunsparce. So if it is Azumarill in the back, Talonflame, as long as shields are down, will do very fine there. Golisopod actually managed to get both shields from the opponent, but will want to double shield back, because ideally you want to keep switch advantage. You do not want double super effective rollouts, even if rollout is a worse move now, landing on that Talonflame. So Claydol is going to hit the field as the opponent pivots back into the Dunsparce. And look at Dunsparce in this matchup, man. That drill run is just pathetic damage. Oh my goodness. Dunsparce used to be such a titan, and now it's reduced to just a Pokemon that kind of just flails around and doesn't do a whole lot. Dunsparce gonna fire off another drill run. Claydol still farming. Claydol very comfortable even taking a third drill run. It knows it's not going to be worried about this damage whatsoever. Claydol gonna get a double up. It's Azumarill in the back, and Azumarill will immediately be debuffed with a Rock Tomb. Claydol gonna fire off Rock Tomb number 2 as well. So now the Azumarill is taking a lot of damage, and this is Brave Bird range. Talonflame hits the field, but this is a -2 Azumarill. Azumarill not going to be doing much of any damage to the Talonflame here. Azumarill can go for the Ice Beam. Oh, that does nothing. Talonflame firing off the Brave Bird, understanding the switch timers are heavily misaligned. Brave Bird picks up the knockout. Opponent going to send in their own Talonflame, but they're going to be hit with the Fly. Fly will be able to pick up the knockout onto the opponent's Talonflame. In comes the Dunsparce. Dunsparce gets a full farm down, but he can always safely just bring in the Claydol and take the win, because the opponent, if they don't want to get farmed down, they're going to have to throw their energy. So they do go for the Rock Slide, and then Golisopod will be able to fire off the Aqua Jet and take the win. So bringing in Claydol basically covers for a potential one-turn bring in there, so it just makes that endgame very, very clean. We hop into the final match. Great lead. Claydol into Shadow, Alolan Sandslash. Anytime you see Sandslash with this team, it's basically just a free win. In comes for Alligator, and he's just going to let this go. because, again, this team, it's all about setting up the Talonflame. He's very happy to take damage on the Cladyol in exchange for damage on the opponent or a shield advantage, because then it can, again, always try and set up the Talonflame. And the funny thing is that Alolan Sandslash, of course, is walled by Golisopod, so they're never going to be bringing in the Sandslash into the Golisopod, which means their Sandslash is about to get absolutely charbroiled by Talonflame. Here, Golisopod just putting so much pressure onto this Jellicent. Even though it is completely walled, the damage does add up. The opponent firing off a Surf to pick up the knockout, but Sceptile is not done with this Golisopod. Another Shadow Claw and another Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet into the Jellicent. It's no shielded. They're leaving it all up to the Sandslash, and that's going to cost them. In comes Talonflame, and the opponent, they're going to immediately resign the match. All in all, big congratulations to Sceptile Ice. A very cool accomplishment, making it all the way back to rank 1 on the leaderboards, and he did so with a pretty unique strategy as well. Using Claydol not as a part of some degen double mud slap team, but actually in a really interesting way. Using it as a setup mon with Rock Tomb debuffs to try and let Talonflame sweep whenever possible, and using Golisopod just because Golisopod is very strong at a slight energy advantage, and Golisopod can be a pretty good core breaker to a lot of teams. So a very cool strategy, and a team that I think people, as long as they follow the play style and some of the lessons from the wins and losses, could probably use themselves and have some pretty nice results with. I think Claydol is, at first, I think I underestimated it because we were all simming it with Rock Tomb, Scorching Sands, but Claydol with Ice Beam is what unlocks this Pokemon's potential. Scorching Sands is completely useless on Claydol, but Ice Beam allows it to actually be very flexible to where it doesn't really have a ton of negative matchups in the 0s and 1s. Just purely off the fact that even in its worst matchups, like against something like a Jumpluff or a Cradily, having that extra damage that Rock Tomb can't provide can be extremely, extremely invaluable. So I do think, granted, I don't love advocating for TMing a Claydol because it learns an insane amount of moves and TMing it is awful. But if you are running Claydol, Rock Tomb Ice Beam, absolutely the way to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.